those. So you can find some descriptions of those trails as well. And the kind of the first formal trail that the city had on its watershed was built in 1991 as part of the 50th anniversary celebration of the American Tree Farm System. Various forestry groups got together and made the plan, got some funding. We got some hired help from the state prison system, some crew labor from them. And the forestry trail was envisioned and built back in 1991. And that was back during the oversight of the previous city forester, Ron Schillinger. But there in the picture, you can see some of those folks that were instrumental in that at that time. Anyway, the forestry trails are a showcase trail. It's an interpretive trail. It's got about a dozen interpretive stops along the trail where people can learn different aspects of forest history as well as forest management. And the whole purpose of the forestry trail is to tell the tale of sustainable forestry here in Western Washington. We have a very rigorous management program. All our lands are harvested on schedules. They're replanted. They're managed. They're thinned. They're well taken care of, well managed. Just this past week, I had a crew of 6 sawyers out in some of our younger stands, just cutting out the Scotch broom that's trying to grow through and overtake our stands. And so we keep a very close watch over all of our stands, and we know how each stand is growing, how many acres each stand is, what the species composition of the trees are, and when they're harvested, or when they're scheduled for harvest, when they're scheduled for thinning. You know, all those kind of attributes are well kept track of in our GIS program. So anyway, we have a set of plaques or set of trail guides on our forestry trail, and you can find those trail guides on our city website as well. So what are you going to encounter when you go for a walk on the city forest trail system? We've got over 20 miles of trails that interconnect, and they all pretty much interconnect with the state park down at Lake Sylvia. So Lake Sylvia is our main trailhead facility. So as you venture out and come to the city forest trails, what will you see? You'll see walkers. We have, like I said, 20 miles of trails, interconnected trails that people use. We've had guided tours there. We've had individually guided tours. We've had group tours. We've had children's tours. We've got bikers out there. We've got runners out there, walkers out there. So there's no shortage of kinds of people and activities that you'll run across out there. And so we're happy to accommodate pretty much everybody. We don't feel that our trail system lends itself to horse use or powered motor vehicle use. So we discourage ATV use and horse riders out there, just because our ground here is so soft, it's so easily degraded by the heavy traffic. But we glad to have the bikers and the hikers and the runners and the kids and everybody else out there. And if you have a dog, then please bring your dog out and take it for a walk as well. What else will you see out in our city forest? Well, you'll see all kinds of different vegetation that we find here in Western Washington, flowers and plants, about a half a dozen different tree species. And you also see something of the forest history here. This picture here is depicting something you'll see on the forestry trail on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And that is some old remnants of an old railroad trestle. The city forest was originally logged back in the early 1900s via railroad, like most of our lands here were. And so you can still find traces of the old railroad line there. And actually, much of the forestry trail, as well as much of our West Fork Trail, are built on the old railroad grade themselves. And so as we dig around and do improvements here, we often find relics of the old days 100 years ago when that was a railroad line as well. Just on the lower left-hand corner of your screen shows a springboard notch. So our city forest is kind of a living forestry museum, and the old timers did it. What they went through to to log back in those days, and the size of the trees that they enjoyed cutting. The middle lower picture there on the screen is a beaver dam. As you walk the forestry trail along the creek there, you'll see the beaver dams. And if you're having a hard trouble seeing them, then listen. Whenever you hear a little fall, is typically because the beavers have built a little dam there, and then you can hear the falls and go searching around and find the beaver dam itself. In the lower right-hand corner, we find some fish spawning. Those are coho salmon spawning in the fall. And we do have a local coho run. We've done the previous forester did some in-stream improvements in Sylvia Creek below the waterfall, below the park. And we've seen the coho salmon using those improvements that we've made. We put in stream gravels, spawning gravels, and the coho enjoy those. And so we do have a reproducing group of salmon that live in the creek as well. What else will you see in the city forest? Well, we are a working forest. And so, of course, you may run into some loggers. Hopefully not run into them, but hopefully you'll hear them in time, not to have any intercourse with them, but they are part of our working landscape. We are a working tree farm, and we always let our contractors know that we are a multiple use forest and that they are to look out for and be conscientious about and be nice to our recreators. And so I think we've had very few run-ins between working contractors and recreation users. And so I think it's been a good fit overall. Anyway, loggers and log trucks. In the right-hand corner of the screen, there's a tree planter. We plant our units just very shortly after logging them. In the lower right-hand corner of the screen is a fish biologist. We do a screen study there. We have about 25% of our city forest property is actually involved in stream buffers that's set aside for shade buffering, mostly for our stream systems. And so every so often we've got to know for sure whether a stream is bearing fish or not. And so we have to hire a biologist to go out and check those for us. And then of course, the picture in the middle is your local happy forester. He enjoys what he does. And so he's glad always to show off his work. So anytime anybody wants to go for a walk in the woods and see what goes on, the city forester is happy to oblige. What else goes on in the woods? Well, trails need maintenance. And most of the trails are built by and maintained by our corps of volunteers. And we love our volunteers. They do great work for us. We wouldn't have the trail system we have without our volunteers. And so we want to work with them as much as we possibly can. So these various pictures were different volunteer trail days and the people who helped out there. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of similar pictures of different. I've been here 14 years and we've had wonderful volunteers ever since I've been here and long before. But the picture in the lower right-hand corner was the previous forester, Ron Schillinger, and he was helping out there building a new trail for the city forest. So, more information. As I said, this stuff can be found on our city website. It's I showed you where I found it. It's here. It's citymontesano.com is where you can find it. If you go to the departments and pull up the forestry department, you can pull up a list of links here. It's that are the forestry department links. And as you open some of those links, you can find some various kinds of maps. But one of our maps, one of our very valuable tools, I think, is an interactive map, a GPS enabled map where you can download a program on your smartphone called Avenza Maps. And with that program, you can then download from our city website the 2021 City Forest Trails GPS map. And once you have that downloaded on your phone, you can walk around in our forest and never worry about losing yourself, because you can always just look on the screen and know exactly where you're at. And so you can tell what trail you're on, how far you might need to go, how far it is back to your truck or your car. And you just have a lot more sense of well-being and not being afraid to venture out and possibly getting lost. But what do you do? That's a very important consideration. We have search and rescue events every so often where a trail user calls in and says, I'm lost or I'm hurt or I need some help. And so the first thing we got to know is, well, where are you? And we get a lot of, I think I turned left over here and right over here, and people have a hard time describing where they're at. But with the advent of smartphones, we can help that process go along a lot quicker. So, oh no, I think I'm lost. First thing to do, if you don't have the Avenza Map program going and you're following yourself there, you can just go to your Google Maps and shine, and go to your maps in your Google Maps, the left-hand screen here, the left-hand image. The little blue dot tells where you're at in Google Maps. And then all you got to do is touch the point with your finger. When you touch that point on your finger, this little location icon will come onto it. And in this window at the top, you will have some coordinates that can tell emergency responders exactly where you're at. So all you got to do is dial 911 and say, I'm lost in the city forest, I need some help. And these are my coordinates, 46.985648 by -123.569. Don't give them those numbers because that'll bring them here to my office. It's a public workshop. But you can easily find out exactly where you're at and tell those responders exactly where you're at by using your smartphone Google Maps app or whatever other mapping app you might have there. So this has taken a lot of the guesswork out of our search and rescue efforts. We can find people a lot quicker, a lot easier. But it's always best also to just kind of keep track of yourself as you go. We have the trail system pretty well signed. 5 years ago, we made a great effort to upgrade the signage on all the city forest trail systems. So I think we've got all the major intersections pretty well marked now. At our major trailheads, both at the state park and at the bottom of the West Fork Trail, we've got major kiosks, big map kiosks that kind of show the overview of the city forest in general and where you are. This particular map on the left screen is the kiosk map at the bottom of the West Fork Trail. Says you are here, and it shows the different trails that you can get to from there, what their names are, how long they are. But in the very lower right-hand corner of these maps, there's a little red box, and that little red box has an emergency reference number there. And if you tell somebody that you're lost, this is my red number, and they can bet the police department has a big map on their wall with all these red numbers on it all over the forest, and they can tell exactly where you're at. So also scattered throughout the forest, we've got these brown trail posts with the trail names and also little red numbers on those. And we've also got lots of little mini maps scattered around that you can find yourself on and negotiate or navigate yourself from there. And in the bottom of those little mini maps, there's also a little red box that says you are at location number such and such. And so if you do get lost, you can need some help. Try to find one of these brown signs or these location maps and call in and say, I'm lost. Here's where I think I am. And please come and help me. And somebody will be there, I'm sure, within the hour. So it's all about knowing where you're at and being able to adequately describe that location. What we're trying to do here is just take out the fear factor. We want people to go out and explore the forest. And so just getting some general sense of confidence that it's not going to be the end of the world if you step off and want a different trail. Go exploring, have some confidence and go exploring and see what you can find out there. And I'm sure you'll enjoy that. I guess finally, I want to go ahead and reiterate what was mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, that this couple Saturdays from now is National Trails Day, and it's also our Monty Trails Appreciation Day. We have this every year, first Saturday in June, and we have just a Saturday morning work party and encourage everybody to come out. If you don't want to work, just come out and go hiking. I'll be there. I'll have lots of maps there. I'll be able to tell people the different trails, how hard they are, how long they are, how long they'll take. So I'll be there handing out information, but the same information you can find on our website. But also, if you'd like to come and help out for a few hours, and mostly it's a pruning party because Love Education just likes to grow over the trails every spring, and so we need to take a little time that effort happen. And so we would just appreciate all the help that anybody can bring on that day, and help us to keep our trails enjoyable for everybody. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Or not?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You showed on your screen a little earlier, along with a map of the trails, a description of the trails.
Right.
Just have the trail name with a few lines description. Where do I find that? Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah. So those are called trail guides.
Yeah.
And if you go to our forestry website, you will find links to printable maps and different printable things. And part of those printable things, you'll find 2 different trail guides, one for the lower Sylvia Creek trails, which is what we're looking at here, as well, and also one for the upper trails if you're more adventurous. The bikers mostly use the upper trails. They're farther from the park and take longer to get there, but we have a lot of runners that like those as well. But most of the walkers use the trails that are within a mile and a half of the lake. And so we got 2 different trail guides describing each of those trails, how long they are, how difficult they are. They're brief descriptions, but they at least give you an idea if you're trying to plan an outing. But also you can call me, and my number here at the store is 360-249-5424. And you can reach me there, leave me a message there, I'll call you back. But also we have some trail maps and guides just inside the door at City Hall. So I try to keep that shelf there. There's a big map at City Hall with the trails on them, as well as a little shelf there with different maps you can take home. So just inside the door at City Hall is another great place to look for my resources. But we try to keep most of that available on our website.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm Carol's friend Lori in Texas. I was just curious what kind of wildlife, might we, or snakes, that kind of stuff that we might encounter on the trail. And then because I live in Texas, I don't know, but how do you use the funds from your tree farm? Is that go to like maintaining the park itself and all that?
No, so we're a city forest, so we're separate from the state park.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, our city forest was bought and is owned by our city water fund. So all the revenues that come in, or most of the revenues, go right to replacing water lines, replacing sewer lines, upgrading our water and sewer system. So it's a farm that generates revenue for its owner, which is our city water fund.
That's great.
But what kind of animals are you going to encounter? A lot of that just depends on what part of the time of the day you're out or what season you're out there. As far as big animals, we really don't have any elk. I think one time in the last 14 years I've seen elk in our city forest, but we have a lot of deer, and there are bears and mountain lions and cougars and raccoons and possums and squirrels and skunks and all those good things. In all my 40 plus years of working in the woods, I've never had a bad encounter with animals. A lot of people just are afraid to go in the woods because they're afraid of what they might encounter. But all the animals in the woods are afraid of us more than we're afraid of them. And I've never had a bad encounter with wildlife in the woods. As far as snakes go, we have no poisonous snakes. The only snake that I know of that we have in the woods is the garter snake, and it's totally harmless. We often see it mostly down by the state park. We don't see it too often up in the woods. But there's beavers and otters in our stream system. There's lots of birds. I saw some eagles there just a few weeks ago. They were feasting on some fish out of the creek. The state wildlife people had put some spawned out steelhead in the lake, and they swam up into the creek. and they were dying there, and the eagles were helping themselves to a fish dinner. We got ospreys there, owls there, buzzards there. So anyway, there's a lot of just good forest wildlife there, and it's typically early or late that you're going to find and see and hear that kind of, the wildlife per se. Good question.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
I missed the beginning of the program. Did you talk about where the entry?
So the forest, as you can see by the picture there on the left, surrounds the Lake Sylvia State Park. So our main place to park and get on the trail system is at the state park itself. And so you need a Discover Pass to go up there and park there. We've talked about and schemed on getting other access points, but to date, that's the best place to go to get on our trail system. Our trail system is interconnected with the state park's trails. The state park has a loop trail that goes around the lake. If you can follow, can you see my cursor on the screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so that the state park here has a nice, easy trail. It's about a 2 mile and a half trail that goes around the lake. And then we have our forestry trail that starts at the dam and goes downstream a mile and crosses over on a footbridge there, and then follows the south side of the watershed of the creek side back up to the lake. And that's where we have all our interpretive trails. And that's about a 2.5 mile walk. And it's a little more rigorous than the lake trail walk. But part of that is also on the old railroad grade. And so it's not bad if you're reasonably able to get out and get around. You can take your time and do it in 2 maybe 3 hours. Anyway, from there you can take, if you want a little more footage, you can go up the Hamby Hill loop here. You can even go clear up the ridge to the Sylvia Ridge Trail and follow that all the way back down to the lake and make about a 6 hour, about a 4 or 5 hour walk there. It's about a 6 mile loop there if you want to do that. If you want to go on up the West Fork Trail, the West Fork Trail is also the old railroad grade, and you can follow that clear to the very top of the watershed. That's about a 3 mile walk up to the road at the top, or you can even walk around, clear around the top and make about an 8 mile loop around the watershed itself. So we got short hikes, we got long hikes, we got some more challenging, some not too hard at all. But there's just one way to find out, and that's go and try it and see what you like. They're awful. When I first came here 14 years ago, we went up there to the state park after my interview for the job and sat there at the lake, and it was in the springtime, it was in April. And after a stressful morning interview for the job, I sat there at a picnic table, and just the peace and tranquility that the state park, and watching people pull in nice big trout out of the lake, and just the atmosphere there made me say, yeah, I really want to move to Montesano. This is a beautiful place to live. And God worked it out. We came here and we've enjoyed managing the city's forestry assets ever since. And so it's a great place.
Hi, Loren, this is Megan. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a question. You talked about the Avenza Maps app, and so I downloaded that, and I'm wondering, how do I get them to the Montesano City Forest map?
Right, so you go to the city website. So like you say, you click this link, and download the app first. And after you got that downloaded, you download this, you click this link and download the map itself. It's a GPS referenced map. And then when you ask you how do you want to open it, you say you open it with Avenza.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tool. We use it not only for trails, we use it for forestry applications all the time. Whenever, it's an inexpensive way to put mapping right on your smartphone. And so whenever we have just regular forestry operations go, I need to make a map for a logger, for a contractor, or a road builder, whatever it is, I make them a map and they can download it on their Avenza Map application, and they can see my directions right there on their screen, point by point, the way I lay it out. So it's just a real powerful, it's just, there's a free version and there's a paid version. If you get the free version, then you can only have up to 3 maps at a time loaded up. But if you buy the $30 paid version, then you can have pretty much unlimited numbers of maps that you can load up and keep on there.
I would like to say that I've been using your old 2013 and 2016 maps that I picked up down at City Hall. They're well worn, but I'm really liking the new map that's all color coded. Because we wind in and around and all over the place, and it is easy to get turned around up there, especially with the terrain changing as different areas are logged.
Right.
So I'm really loving the color coded, and I'm especially loving this app, which I was completely unaware about. So thank you.
Yes, no, it's a wonderful tool. It just makes a big difference. We want people to be able to enjoy their experience. And if people are worried about being lost, then it's a terrible thing. Fear is a terrible thing. We want it to be enjoyable, not fearful. And so we're really happy to be able to have this tool available for everybody.
And I'd like to bring the full circle here. Chapin Collins was instrumental in doing a lot of this stuff. His wife, Isabel, was very active with the Friends of the Library when I first got involved. Val, are you still there? Was she the treasurer forever, or was she the president?
She was the treasurer forever.
And she was a beautiful lady.
She was, very much so. I'd like to mention that there are several hiking backpacks available to be checked out at the Montesano Library.
And they include the Discover Pass.
Yes, and they include the Discover Pass.
And you don't need the Discover Pass for helping us up on Trails Day, because that's a free day at the park.
Super.
And you can always park for 15 minutes and use the facilities, or you can just drive through without having a Discover Pass. But this is the main way that state parks has to go to support parks. So $30 for a year is a pretty good deal.
Yep.
It sure is.
But I'm just curious. You said so that someone who, for example, doesn't have the resources to get a Discover Pass could go to the library and borrow a backpack and then be able to go into the state.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, just ask at the desk. There's all
That's
kinds
amazing.
of binoculars, things for kids. If kids are along with you, they're really fun and full of good stuff.
And you can also check out a lot of stuff from the library, including some amazing things. I have a friend with eyesight problems, and she checked out a large computer base for her computer and liked it so well that she bought one. She got to try it. So let's hear it for libraries, and let's hear it for our wonderful forest. Thank you so much, Loren.
Thank you, Loren.
Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for your patience with me while I got the technology worked out here.
Hey,
No problem.
do what we can.
Okay.
Okay.